Alright chat, we need to talk about language levels. I've seen way too many questionable takes over the years of my polyglotting, but especially in recent months. Like, what are the levels? Are you A1 when you've just started? Are you still a noob at A2? Are you really fluent in a language unless you have a C2? Can you contribute to society at a B1? Yes, I'm looking at you, Keir Starmer. Or what about exams and courses? Have you reached a B1 level after completing a B1 course? Do you have to take an exam to reach a level? Does every language even have CEFR levels? For a system designed to facilitate discussion and comparison of language abilities, there sure is a lot of ambiguity, or dare I say, misunderstandings surrounding it. I just so happen to have a certificate in A2, in B2, and also a C1 somewhere on my computer, which I probably didn't get the memo because apparently I'm obliged to bring them up every single video ad nauseam. So it's time I throw my hat in the ring and put down the Rhapsody in Lingo definitive take on what CEFR levels really mean for language learning. And if you like me weighing in on things like this, definitely give the video a like right now. Right. So what are the levels really? I've seen wildly different interpretations. Some of you see a fluid conversation about language learning or some common topics and say B2, while others see the same thing and say A2. So let's go back to the basics. What is the CEFR and what does it do? Well, the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages Learning, Teaching, Assessment is, quote, a guideline used to describe achievements of learners of foreign languages, end quote. Wikipedia, Access 7 September 2025. In the video where I introduced the Welsh exam at the highest level, which is a B2, I claimed that most people underestimate the B2 and teased a video on why. This is the video and it's time to add some meat to that claim. I'll talk about what the levels mean in practice in a bit, but before that, let's talk definitions. Now, in very simple terms, A, B, and C represent beginner, intermediate, and advanced respectively, and the 1 and 2 are sub-levels in each level. In slightly less simple terms, the CEFR has fancy names for them. A, B, C are described as basic, independent, and proficient users, and the various sub-levels are called breakthrough, wastage, threshold, vantage, advanced, and mastery. What weirdly niche words some of these are. The problem that causes most misunderstandings is what all these words mean because their definition can be quite subjective. I've seen courses that refer to a B2 or even a B1 as advanced. My B2 certificate in Welsh is called high level, whereas plenty of people hear intermediate and imagine halfway to fluency, which might be something that's actually closer to an A2. Thankfully, A1 to B2 aren't just shorthands for all those fun words, but more importantly come with a whole set of descriptions. Now I won't read out all of them, but you can pause the video to read them if you want to. What I want to draw attention to is the communicative skills in the higher levels that go beyond just language skills, whatever that means. For example, with a B2 you can make and understand complex arguments and lectures in certain fields. With C1 you actually cross into implications, technical language, different styles and registers within the same language. And these are official descriptions. But I was actually reading off the language learning app Busuu because Busuu is committed to creating courses that adhere to these exact standards. I first heard about Busuu from Lamont, who said good things about it. Since then, I've heard people singing praises of the site and even people using it religiously, flaunting the Busuu certificates and acting as basically an unpaid salesperson. That piqued my curiosity, so I asked Busuu for a trial, and now that they're sponsoring this video, I'm going to tell you how it fits my approach towards language learning perfectly. Now, among the different languages that the site offers, I want to brush up on my German most, which is on a good B2 I reckon, so I tried out their C1 course, as well as a beginner course in Korean and the B1 course in Dutch. Very quickly I noticed how their teaching goes way beyond surface level translation exercises. When it comes to language learning, I never shut about learning with context. So Busuu has bite-sized lessons on specific themes that give you exactly that, a context to develop and use your skills in. There are lessons on developing vocabulary, ones on useful expressions and sentences, and even ones that give you ideas to discuss a topic. The format of the lessons are also tailored to your level, so on the higher levels, everything, including the instructions, are in the target language, rather than relying on translations. I particularly enjoyed the reading exercises where they test your actual understanding, not just what every word means. What is this text about? What opinion are they expressing? How are they expressing these opinions? You can learn to genuinely understand and express things independently. What caught me by surprise though was the community features, where you're not simply given the chance to ask native speakers for real human feedback, but it's baked right into the course. It's required in order to finish some lessons. And every day I get some notifications asking me to help other people. I'm truly impressed how much thought they put into it. So sign up for Busuu today and enjoy a 7-day free premium trial with the link in the description. Now back to what the levels mean in real life. Let's take an example. Someone in my live stream chat asked me, what level do you think is needed to claim working proficiency? If you haven't seen my live streams, try to catch the next one. If you're too busy to catch them, check out my clips channel for highlights. By official definition, B1 is what you need to enjoy day-to-day life in a different language, which might already contradict what you think. I'd say it's a socially capable level. If you want to make friends, that's ideally your minimum, which is why it's commonly the level required to become a country's citizen, such as the current UK policy. B2 is, among other things, the ability to communicate on a sophisticated level in your specific field or fields. That's why it's often the level required for entering university. So from this, I'd say B1 is sufficient for low-skilled jobs. I don't like the name, like selling stuff. While B2 should in theory suffice for something like an office job, but that'll also highly depend on your confidence. Conservatively, I'd say I have a working proficiency at a C1, which is when you go beyond your own expertise. Whereas to me, C2 is needed if you work on something that, by nature, specifically requires advanced language such as journalism, literature, or academia. Now, many people have the misconception that C2 must mean perfect, which must mean native fluency. Absolutely not. First of all, there's no perfection in language learning. You never get there. Forget about it. Like I said, C2 is an academic level of proficiency. Like my English, I'm this close to having a PhD researched in English. Now that's a C2. Do most native speakers have a PhD? No. And also, more importantly, even if they did, they wouldn't talk like they're at an academic conference all the time. People in their everyday lives speak at a B2-ish, or else they sound incredibly weird. Here's an example in everyday language. Become a channel member now to support my work and access exclusive content. I also offer personal tutoring in different languages at different levels. Click the link in the description for details. Now, if native speakers always spoke at a C2 level, you'd be hearing something along the lines of, enlist as a channel member to sustain my endeavors and procure access to content of an exclusive nature. I likewise extend bespoke linguistic tutelage across diverse languages and proficiency strata. Comprehensive particulars may be consulted via the link in the description. The vast majority of conversations you ever have are on a B2 level, whether or not you have a C2. The reality is there is no level on the CEFR scale that corresponds to native speakers because, for one, it's not meant for that, it's for language learning. Sometimes we use an N for native, but to be honest, native levels can also vary so much. They can be anywhere between a C2 and a B2, or even a B1. And that's only counting native speakers who grew up surrounded by the language, not heritage speakers. What about exams then? Do they give you a more objective understanding of the levels? One common mistake is to overly rely on exams to evaluate someone's level. Yes, obviously, exams are made with the express purpose of proving someone's level. No doubt about that. But exams aren't perfect. They're a simplified representation, a cross-section of your skills. People often go, oh, she passed the exam, so she for sure is on that level. Or he didn't do an exam, so he probably doesn't have that level. There is a lot of grey area in there. I grew up in a culture that specializes in training students to do exams. So take my word for it when I say that you can absolutely pass an exam without possessing all the knowledge and skills that you're expected to. For our English exams, we focus on using specific phrases to appear more capable than we otherwise would be. Add that to the fact that a pass can represent a wide range of ability. If one person barely passed an exam and the second person got full marks, their abilities could be miles apart, and yet they have the same certificate. Some exams tie the marks you get to your level, such as IELTS or JLPT, if you convert the levels to CEFR levels. Richard Simcott often talks about how fully mastering all the material within a level is very far from learning enough to pass an exam.
The reason why people were overestimating my level, when I passed those exams, I was passing them with around about 95 or so percent. I basically knew that kind of amount of the syllabus, the vocabulary, the grammar, and I felt very comfortable with it.
Zooming in, there is also a range of ability within each skill, whether it be reading, listening, speaking, or writing. Fluidity of speech, for example, can be one hallmark of a high level, but it could also just be a trick to mask one's abilities or even just a result of someone's personality. There is also a lot of luck involved in exams because they only test a specific snapshot of your skills. No matter how good or bad you are overall, you're always better at discussing certain topics than others. So if you're tested on one of those good topics, you might pass without knowing much about other topics. Our skills also vary day by day, even native speakers. Everyone has good days and bad days. Everyone gets tired, and everyone has tip of the tongue moments. The point is, ultimately, language abilities by nature are vague and impossible to measure with one single yardstick. Exams should be used for reference, not an absolute determiner of ability. The biggest question, though, is something that people should be asking, but aren't. What is the CEFR scale really for? Some people treat the CEFR scale like it's a system of qualifications. It is not. It's a scale. Each level is a shorthand for roughly what abilities you have and don't have, what situations you can manage. There are qualifications based on the CEFR scale, usually using the same symbols, A1 to C2, but the scale itself is not the qualifications. There are other qualifications that use other systems of measurement. These systems sometimes correspond to the CEFR scale, but don't necessarily match the descriptors 100%. So if I say I have a B2 level, it's synonymous to saying that I can do this list of things. It's just saying the same thing but quicker. Some people think you can't use CEFR for, let's say, Japanese because they have JLPT N5 to N1 exams, not CEFR A1 to C2 exams. But that's missing the point. CEFR is a framework of reference. It's a way of facilitating comparison between language levels in different languages. So when you want to tell someone your Japanese level, someone who doesn't understand the JLPT N5 to N1 system, instead of having to explain the system to them, you can just say it's roughly a B2. It's like converting from inches to centimeters. They are different representations of the same thing in reality. Meanwhile, qualifications put abilities into boxes. It's like your shoe size. You can use a scale of measurement called centimeters for your feet. Now, centimeters are not a shoe size. They're just a way of describing and communicating your foot's length, because without the scale, all you can say is, it's this big, or it's not very big.
That's what she said!
In the West, you generally convert this measurement into a system of discrete sizes, such as UK size 10. That means the shoes size 10 are the most fitting for the size of my feet. If I say I have a JLPT N1, it's because I can do certain things in Japanese which roughly fit the requirements of this qualification. And if you remember, a list of things is just a longer way of saying B2. But in most of East Asia, your shoe size is just your foot's length in centimeters. It's a system of sizes based on the scale, known as centimeters, like how there are qualifications such as Goethe examinations based on the CEFR system of descriptors. When I say my shoe size is, let's say, 43 in this system, I'm not saying my foot is exactly 43 centimeters, perhaps it's 42.5, but because of the way my foot is shaped, shoes sized 43 are the most comfortable for me. And that's exactly what qualifications do. Everyone has different abilities and they fit those abilities to the closest matching box. The most important thing is, no matter how you want to measure your foot or what size you go for, the reality is your foot exists. It has a length and a width and a shape. Your abilities exist independently of any system of measurement. So if you reject using the CEFR to describe your level because the exams don't exist, it means it's impossible to reach any level in most of the languages in the world. It's like saying you can't measure phone screens in centimeters because you're supposed to use inches normally. There are so many languages that don't have exams. I have a B2 Welsh certificate, that's the third time now, but that's the highest level there is. They don't offer C-level exams. Does that mean I can never reach a C-level? Of course not. You might say, oh, if the exam doesn't exist, you can't officially reach that level. So what you should do instead is describe your level by stating what you can do in the language. To which I say, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. When I say things like, I have a B2, I have a C1, it's the same thing as describing my level, just quicker by referencing this existing scale of descriptors. Anyway, you get the idea. Language abilities will always be highly personal and idiosyncratic. Levels like A1 to C2 are descriptions and representations of your abilities. Qualifications are a way of confirming your level as much as it is possible to even do so. So in short, please feel free to use the CEFR levels in any language whenever you feel like it's fitting your actual abilities. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if you disagree with my take. Shout out to Kamil for supporting the channel on the all the way level. If you like what I do, you can join Kamil and become a channel member, and I'll see you in the next one.